Hi, my name is Leanne Unasa, host for Girls on Film, where we get to have a connecting conversation amongst women through the lens of film. And we look at one question and our answer to that question that's in relation to film. And this is our very first session. And the first question is, what is your favorite film and why? So I'm going to answer that question first, and then I'm going to let the other two ladies we have with us today, Jocelyn and Lalita, and they will give you their answers to the question. So, what is my favorite film and why? First of all, it was really tough to find one film that is my favorite, but I would have to say, only just beating Hunt for the Wilder People, the top would have to be The Shawshank Redemption. And the reason why that's my favorite film is because it is all about hope and overcoming really tough situation. And out of that, and one of the main things is an unlikely friendship and real true friendship that develops between two men. And actually, my top five films have this as a theme: unlikely friendships between two men that come from different, very different walks of life. And I think that's one of the main attractions is seeing a story unfold where people from different backgrounds, different circumstances find a common area or common ground and build a deep connection from that. Um, and then also just enjoying the simple things in life is also part of the movie. There's a character that has like a little bird as his friend. There's a part of the movie where they go out on the terrace to do work, but being outside and in the sunshine and being out, the main character gets to, blag a bottle of beer for each of the guys that go on this, doing this work, and just enjoying being out in the fresh air and in the sunshine. That's part of that scene, which really connects with me as well. So yes, that's my favorite film, The Shawshank Redemption, and why. And so, Lalita, what is your favorite film and why?
Thank you, Leanne. So, like you said earlier, it was difficult to choose just one. So, I went on the basis of what could I watch over and over again. So, my favorite movie would be The King and I. And what I love about the movie is that there were these two people who didn't even really come, well, not didn't even really, they didn't come from the same place, and they got to know each other. And so here you have the king of Siam, and he's whatever you want to call Mrs. Anna. She was more than a teacher, I think, to his children. And how they connect throughout the movie, and it was almost like you wish that they would fall in love, but then there was the part of you that knew that would kind of almost spoil it somehow, because it wasn't really about falling in love, it was about the connection. And I loved his humanness. um, I have to say I also love Yul Brynner. Just as an aside, I think he's so hunky. I'm a girl, so and yeah, just his humanness, and there's these tender scenes, where he pats his children on the head, and then with the littler ones, he shows them, and he doesn't say anything. He doesn't go, "Oh, I love you," but you can see so clearly how he feels about them. And so, yeah, that would be my favorite movie that I think if I found that on the telly any day, that would be on. So, Jocelyn, over to you. What is your favorite movie and why?
Okay, thank you, Lalita. Um, right, I have to agree with you both. It's actually really difficult to choose your favourite movie, but I think as we're in this present time, you know, we're living in this sort of situation, lockdown and things like that. I think the movie that comes to my mind as is really one of my favourites. It's a movie called The Big Blue. It's a kind of an action sort of drama film. It was made in 1988, but it centres around two divers. They're two men. The film is French. It's with subtitles, and it's about two men. They have they're sort of competitive. They're like, sort of like divers. They do free diving, and they sort of divers for their sort of working. They're sort of making their money. They're earning their living, but they have a passion for deep diving. It's diving without the help of oxygen and things. So you diving down as far as you can, but with your own breath, holding your breath. But what I love about the movie, there is the kind of the plot of sort of the men being competitive, two very different characters. But it's actually the location, it's the visuals. The film was directed by Luc Besson, and he is amazing. Sort of just imagery, scenery. You know, being the sea, being on the water, being in the water. It is absolutely jewel-like. The visuals, and it just really takes you just to another place. And sort of all the underwater sort of filming and stuff is just beautiful. There is also a bit of there's a romantic link as well. So, you know, a love twist. I think it's with this American actress. Her name will come to me, but it's a beautiful movie, and I think that's what's comes to mind, especially because we've been living in lockdown for like over a year. So that really does come to mind. So for me, that's my favorite movie. So I will go to Diana and see take it from there.
Thanks, Jocelyn. So I already knew the answer to Jocelyn's confession, and I still haven't managed to watch The Big Blue. But Luc Besson is one of my favorite directors. He's not my favorite all-time favorite, but he is one of my favorites. And I wondered if you've seen Angel A by Luc Besson.
No.
Right, I'd recommend you watch it. It's set in Paris and it's in black and white.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, beautiful cinematography. Yeah.
Okay.
I think you'll
yes.
enjoy it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So it seems that we have like a common theme of like nature and love, but not necessarily a conventional kind of love, and you know, the typical ways that movies, not fairy tale love. And Lalita, I managed to catch when you were talking about, you know, if The King and I is ever on telly, you would watch it. I happened to come across the later version, not the Yul Brynner version, but is it Chow Yun Fat that is the King and The King and I with Jodie Foster? Yeah. So I caught that version. I didn't catch it from the beginning, but oh gosh, it just sucked me right in. And I love the storyline, you know, with the son that's quite a little so and so, and the fact that, you know, her and the son end up with a really lovely relationship, which I thought was fantastic. Yeah. Uh, interesting, interesting. So we have the Shawshank Redemption, The King and I, and The Big Blue, and they all start with the word the. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's significant, but
Uh,
Lalita, any observations on our answers that you want to share?
A couple of things stood out to me. I loved the observation of the commonality with the. So what came to mind was the great big picture. And I love Jocelyn's feast. I think you said feast for the eyes. Oh my God, you were describing that, and the jewel part, when you said
Yeah.
the jewel, that really stood out to me. I wanted to add with when you were talking about Anna and the King, because they renamed that version, didn't they? So she apparently, I mean, I couldn't tell you for sure because I haven't done the research, but she was apparently working for King Mongkut the Fifth, I think, or was he just Mongkut? I'm not sure. But when you talked about the relationship that Anna had with the son, so the son was the future monarch, Chulalongkorn, and he was one of the most progressive monarchs they had. And what came to mind was, imagine the possibilities when you plant seeds in a young child and you just let them, you know, evolve, is the word I'm going to say, without putting rubbish into their heads. And that's what comes to mind for me. So over to you on that note, Jocelyn.
Okay. It's actually, you sort of, it's made me think because I think often in the West, we look at things from the prism of the West. And actually what's really, really brilliant about The King and I, yes, there's the story plots that we, you know, that we're all aware of. But actually when you delve a bit further, it's actually more, it's more intricate. You know, the sort of you highlighted about, you know, the son was to be the next king, you know, and having this environment of having the governess there, and the character of the governess, and it's not just about her teaching, it's also about being inspired and all these other things that come with, you know, having, you know, quite rare people in your you know, your circle, or in your local, in your environments, that's the word, in your environments. So it's just actually got me sort of thinking on a totally different level. You know, I'm now sort of thinking, I've seen The King and I a number of times, and I'm now sort of seeing it in a different light, not just purely from the West standpoint, you know, and the kind of the obvious storyline that is, you know, that peters through the movie. Is actually just delving more, and sort of that's actually really kind of got me thinking, like, oh, you know, actually I need to do a little bit of research to understand a bit more about the times the film was set in, the story. Do you know what I mean? It actually gets you thinking more, and not just taking the relationship at the face value, because I think a lot of movies do feed you that kind of face value thing, that narrative. So for me, and I think that's something that maybe that can be applied to all the films actually that we've kind of highlighted. There is the obvious narrative, but actually there's you know, Leanna was saying about the characters in her film. You know, there's a relationship and a friendship that develops, that's not an obvious relationship, and it makes you sort of want to delve a bit more, you know, and understand that. So no, so yes, that definitely has got me thinking. You know, And I want to go now do a bit more research. Oh, dear me. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you've made me realise that I need to go and do a bit of research too, Jocelyn and Lalita, because even though I've seen the movie, I haven't delved into that part of history. And those kind of events I find very interesting. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys want to add anything else before I wrap up. You're more than welcome to if you want to.
I do have something to add. So, we were talking about doing the research, and it just makes me grateful for the history that we studied at school, because so I'm a Malaysian, and so we studied Malaysian history to death. I don't know how it works in other countries. And considering I have 2 kids in school, that's a little bit, but anyway, we won't go there, right? but we did Southeast Asia, some of Southeast Asia, and Thai history was one, and their political structure was fascinating. So I think that's all I'm going to say on that, and be interesting to see what you guys come up with when you do your reading and your research.
Yeah. So thanks. This has been a great first one, guys. I've enjoyed it. I've learned of it, and I'm about to, and more importantly, it's prompted me to go and learn more. And Lalita, it may interest you to know that, it's actually quite shocking when I think about it. In New Zealand, we don't get taught New Zealand history. I don't know if it's because it's the colonization story, and so it's not convenient to be teaching the children the colonization. I mean, obviously there was some New Zealand history, but it wasn't the real history, should I say?
So you're saying that let's just say the native peoples, the natural peoples of New Zealand, that history is not taught?
No. Well, it wasn't, sorry, beg your pardon, it was not taught in my day.
Wow.
And I've got to interject as well. It was taught in my day, but I know they've changed the syllabus many times since I've been at school. And I am also going to ask my son what he studies in history.
Yeah, because history is always written by the conqueror, isn't it? Or it's always it's usually a one-sided view of history.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's kind of like through one angle of a prism,
Yes.
This it's this is fascinating. I love history, and I here in the UK they teach a very filtered form of history. So the sort of all the conquerors, the Normans, the Saxons, and a little bit of the Vikings, and then some of the kings, and then your Edwardian and the Victorians, and obviously the empire is kind of all very convenient, it's in there, but
what about the Celts and the Picts and the...
No, they don't really, not so much. It's kind of like, they're just kind of ruffians, kind of wild people.
Just there.
They're just people that were just very annoying, who resisted. They were very annoying because they resisted, so they just built a Hadrian's Wall and kept them out. So that was a bit like Trump with his wall, and he wants to keep history has a habit of repeating itself, and it's very strange how these politicians of various ilk repeat the same mistakes. Obviously
Maybe
not
they
very
need a Mrs. Anna.
They need a Mrs. They definitely need a Mrs. Anna.
And you know, when you were talking about the conquerors, you know that scene in The King and I when they all dressed up in the European, and that
European
was so impressive.
yes.
Okay, I didn't like that so much because I thought, you know, maybe you should have. I know it's a movie, but wouldn't it have been lovely to impress in your own national costume?
Yes, yes.
100%.
Yes. Most definitely. Oh, Lolita, I've got lots of research now.
Yeah. And I'm dying to know what you do. So I'm
Okay. So, all right, I'll take that cue. We're going to wrap up. So we're going to have another one of these in a fortnight's time. And the whole idea of this is that the three of us, or however many of us are in this conversation that's recorded, act as a catalyst for a much wider conversation between predominantly women. And that's mainly because, you know, the female perspective isn't that well represented in film. So yeah, but that it's not to exclude men at all. If men want to get involved, fantastic. So there will be this recording will be uploaded, and there will be a poll uploaded as well, where you can get involved and tell us what your favorite film is and why. And any comments, keep it nice, you know, obey the rules, don't be a troll. And tell us, you know, whether you have any input to our choices. Yeah,
Okay.
and that's it for this first one. And cut.